My Tesla was in the shop for 44 days, and I ended up getting it back just yesterday with a $2,900 repair. So now I need to decide whether or not I want to keep driving my Tesla for Uber. Quite frankly, even if I want to get another Tesla. Hi, my name is Levi Spires. This is the Tip You in the App Daily Drive podcast. Today's Daily Drive podcast is brought to you by the Gig U app. Okay, so let me kind of just give you the backstory. April 21st, I went out to go drive my car, and it was a brick. I couldn't even get the doors open because the doors, are electric. So you have to get the car jump started. And I did, but the jump start doesn't actually drive the vehicle. It only just allows you to open the doors and check the computer and things like that. And as I'm looking at Google and ChatGPT, et cetera, it looks like it's a major catastrophic battery failure, the big one. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so expensive. So they tow my truck or they tow my Tesla to the Tesla dealership. And Tesla says, good news, it's just your 12-volt battery. Unbeknownst to me, there are two batteries inside of your Tesla. There's the big one that drives the car, but there's actually a smaller normal car battery that runs a lot of the internal electronics and things like that. And it was dead. So they said it's going to be like $200 to replace that. I was really happy. But after they replaced it, they realized something was shorting the battery. It wasn't that the battery was dead. It was that something was draining the battery. Something was shorting it out. Now, I'm not an electrician, so bear with me as I explain some electronics and electricity things to you here. What was happening at first, they thought it was some sort of wiring and wiring harnesses. And there's a lot of those inside of an electric car. So they kept testing them. And you're like, well, why did it take 44 days? The reason why it took 44 days is I told them to take their time. I have another car. I didn't really need my Tesla back. And it was my way of saying, don't try to do a rush job and charge me a lot of money. That's basically the best way I can say it. And so I think they took their time and they prioritized other people's work, and they may have given me a discount for it. Okay, so it wasn't the wiring harnesses, though. They kept testing a bunch of different wiring harnesses, and none of those were the cause of the problem. Come to find out, it was the PCM, the power control module, the AC-DC converter. When I plug my Tesla in at home, it is under AC, active current, and that's how all of our homes are powered in America and stuff like that. But that unit went out and it cost $2,900 to repair it. And I got the car back yesterday. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, do I want to keep driving my Tesla? And I'm going to give you all my numbers and things like that here in a second. First, though, I want to kind of just point out the bigger thing in society, how let me say it to you this way. I'm going to compare my Tesla, driving that, to my 1974 280Z 2+2. I had that car back in high school, and my Tesla is the easiest thing to drive. You literally just walk up, it unlocks, you get in, you hit a button, and it drives away. It does everything for you. Whereas my 78 280Z 2+2 inline six, 4-speed, stick shift, it's a complicated thing to drive. And everything's really manual. Well, in this world where we have all this autonomous everything kind of happening behind the scenes, if one of those things breaks, everything falls apart. And I was thinking, I'm almost comparing it to like DoorDash. Stick with me on this for a second here. You're sitting at home watching a movie on your 60-inch TV with amazing surround sound, and you go on your phone and you're like, I would like some sort of rare Ethiopian dish. And you're in Tacoma, Washington. You're someplace else. And you hit a little button, and 30 minutes, an hour later, this rare Ethiopian dish shows up at your house. Well, obviously there was so many things happening behind the scenes, from the DoorDash and Uber app or whatever you used, to the restaurant deciding to create that dish, supplying that restaurant with food, cooks preparing it, and then a driver, people like me, bringing that food to your house. How amazing society is. Yet that all that stuff happens behind the scenes. You as the consumer, you just see a little thing, you're like, I'd like that Ethiopian dish, and that's amazing. Well, that's what it's like driving the Tesla. Everything's behind the scenes happening. So it kind of felt it felt horrible with it all falling apart. And I'm thinking like I should just get a manual car, go back to old school driving. Well, I want to go through the numbers now. That's probably the more important thing. Like, do I want to continue to drive the Tesla? So let's go through the numbers. All right, my Tesla has 158,000 miles. I did pay sometime last year $670 to replace one of the lamps, so the camera systems on the car. And then I've just paid $2,900 to replace the PCM. I've done about $400 in tire rotations and wipers. I'm on my second set of tires, and those tires should last me another 30,000 miles, give or take. So I've spent $6,700 to manage the Tesla maintenance and repairs. That comes out to 4.3 cents per mile at 158,000 miles. I've been budgeting 4 cents, so that's pretty good. I'll take that. Just as a comparison, what it costs to manage my Prius, that's 117,000 miles. I've done $1,400 in oil changes. I've done a $430 brake job, new tires, and then I also have to get snow tires because the Prius isn't all-wheel drive. I put snow tires on the car instead of just all seasons. So my total maintenance and repairs have been $3,200. So it's almost 3 cents per mile. So that's the difference between the Prius and the Tesla. Now let's talk about the future value of my Tesla. So current to 158,000 miles. I'm going to dispose of it around 300,000 miles. That's 141,000 miles to go. I'm about halfway through. I purchased it for $38,000. My current value is $15,000. I went out and looked at Kelley Blue Book, and roughly my car to trade it in is $15,000 right now. And that includes all of the, wear and tear that I've done as an Uber driver. So the current value is $15,000. It's already depreciated $23,000, and I've been budgeting 15 cents per mile to depreciate, and right now it's at 14.8 cents. So I'm right on track with my depreciation of the vehicle. I think I'm going to dispose of it at $5,000 at the 300,000 miles. So that means my car is going to depreciate another $10,000. So my future depreciation is now 7 cents per mile. Now let's talk about future maintenance. This is kind of what we need to get into. So again, 141,000 miles. I still need to drive it to get it to 300,000 miles. I'm going to probably get 2 more sets of tires. I'm going to budget roughly $3,000 for those tires. I'm going to have another that I'm not sure what it's going to be. Maybe another set of wipers or something like that. Maybe brakes. I don't know. And then repairs. Now you see that repairs is $20,000. I'm going to budget for repairs to include replacing the battery. That may not happen, but it may. So my future maintenance and repairs are going to be very high, 17 cents per mile. And then here's just the fuel costs on the vehicle. It's a little bit complicated for those that drive normal cars, but for electric cars, I charge at home at 14 cents. When I do fast charge, it costs me 50 cents per kilowatt hour. So the cost to charge my car for 191 miles costs $13. That's about 7 cents per mile. The Prius is 8 cents right now, and that's at 55 miles of the gallon, with the cost of a gallon being $4.50. My maintenance and repairs are going to be super high at 17 cents. On the Prius, it's still only 4 cents. The depreciation costs on the Tesla are going to drop down to 7 cents, but my Prius, I'm going to keep it at 11 cents. So the cost per mile is 30 cents to drive my Tesla, and it's 23 cents to drive my Prius. I'm going to have $38,000 in cash for my next vehicle. This is how I've always managed vehicles, but my depreciation, I'm accounting for it by putting that money in an account and saving for it. So you can see that my current depreciation balance is right around $23,000. My future depreciation is going to be about $10,000, again, that I'm saving for. My total depreciation is going to be 33,000 on the vehicle, and then I'm going to get a disposal sale of 5,000. So that's going to be $38,000 for my next vehicle. So let's talk about Monday. On Monday, let me give you some of these numbers here. I earned $154 on Monday. Was online for 5 hours. I did 3 hours and 43 minutes of active time. I did 5 trips. Got a crazy amount of tips. And I drove 141 miles. As you can see, here's my trip right there. Okay, now let's go down here and let's take a look at Monday. I did it in my Prius because I still didn't have my Tesla back. So I earned $154. I had 141 miles. My earnings per mile was $1.09. And this includes, by the way, my deadhead miles, my total miles. My cost per mile is 23 cents to drive my Prius. My profit per mile is 86 cents. My profit is $121. So I ended up making $23 an hour in my Prius. If I was driving my Tesla for the same trips, my profit per hour would have been $21 profitability per hour. It's an 8% increase to drive my Prius. I make more money driving my Prius. There you go. My Prius is going to operate 3, 4, 5 cents potentially cheaper than my Tesla, which is about a 30%, 20% savings to some extent on the cost per mile, which is going to generate 5 to 10% more profitability every single time I Uber drive. Now, the Tesla may get me a little bit more in tips, maybe 1 or 2, especially when the passengers want a better experience with like Tesla FSD. They like to see that, and or potentially just storage space, Uber comfort. The Prius did really well. Nobody complained getting in my car. They ordered the cheapest ride. They got an UberX and a Prius with the seat pushed up all the way forward, black leather interior, very clean, showed up, and I'm sure they're all pretty satisfied. So honestly, the Prius is going to make a little bit more money than the Tesla in the long run. That's my guess. So the question is, if the Tesla makes less money and I have a Prius already and the Tesla is expensive to repair, should I continue to drive the Tesla? Quite frankly, should I even buy another Tesla after a $2,900 expense? And I'm budgeting now for a $20,000 repair, potentially with like a $15,000 battery and $5,000 in other repairs, which potentially may happen. Well, yeah, I'm going to definitely get another Tesla. I'm a Tesla person for life, and I'll explain that. And I'm definitely going to drive my Tesla for Uber driving as much as I can. There's a couple of reasons why. The reason why I like Tesla so much is the software. It makes my life that much easier to drive a Tesla, especially for Uber. Let me give you an example. I have the car in full self-drive. Just imagine me driving down the road. I have the car in full self-drive, and a ride comes in. I accept it. That address for where I'm going is automatically put into my Tesla software, and the Tesla changes where it's going and automatically drives me to go pick up my passenger. When you have a Tesla in full self-drive, it's just more relaxed. So I can drive for longer hours in my Tesla and come home a little bit more refreshed than if I was driving my Prius. It's also fun to drive. I mean, it's just a little bit faster acceleration and things like that. And the stereo system and the software, and it all just works better than my Prius. Now, the Prius functions well as a low-end car with, getting great gas mileage. It really does. And I didn't hate driving my Prius, but I didn't like it compared to my Tesla. So I'm willing to pay a little bit more to drive a Tesla as an Uber driver. Now, if the battery doesn't die, and most odds are it probably won't, I'll have $20,000 put away just in case. Just be ready. But if it does die, I'll have the money set aside. And that's what it kind of comes down to, is that budgeting and accounting has a purpose. And as an accountant, it's nice to see the numbers come through for you, even though it costs you money. It's like, hey, I've been putting money away. I've been saving for it. Yeah, I had to cash out, but whatever. Here's some of the paying myself back. I've been putting that money away and saving it. And I imagine you do the same thing with you in your life. You compromise costs for a higher quality of living. You might go to Starbucks. When you can get coffee made at your house, you're going to go to Starbucks. You might be driving around in a Dodge Durango or some sort of Honda Accord, which are nicer cars than maybe a cheap Toyota Prius, but you're saying to yourself, I want a higher quality of living. The bottom line for me is, if I stop Uber driving, I still want to have a Tesla sitting out there in my driveway. Maybe a Cybertruck. I might be getting a Cybertruck. And that's just life. That's what we make decisions for in life. Now, would you be willing to make that sacrifice? Would you be willing to continue to drive a Tesla after you've had a $2,900 repair? If you're a Tesla owner, have you had a similar experience? Let me know. Drivers, for 2026, I want you to have more fun. I want you to drive your way, but get back into the game of rideshare and do it the way you want to do it. That's definitely what I'm recommending for myself and for other drivers. I want you to be safe, healthy, and happy. Please check out the sponsors, Gig U and Red Tiger.